Sí, regresamos aquí nuevamente a Vive Sanamente, hoy con la compañía del doctor David Pesek, y hemos estado hablando acerca de la evolución, ¿verdad?, de la iridología en todas las partes del mundo, pero vamos a hablar un poquito ahora acerca, para que el mismo doctor Pesek nos dé una descripción breve de las cosas que podemos ver, algunas de las cosas que podemos ver en el iris del ojo. Dr. Pesek, I want you to briefly tell us about the iris, the pictures that we're going to present right now.
I'll be glad to.
So we're going to begin with the lymphatic eye. Let's see.
All right, good. Can we put that lymphatic
Yes.
eye up on the screen? Okay, so what we're going to be looking at here is a blue iris, or ojo azul. And the blue iris is came after the brown eye. The brown eye is the oldest iris color in the human species. And somewhere along the way there was a genetic change, and the brown pigment did not deposit over the iris fibers. That's all those fine little threads that you see on the screen. Those are called trabeculas. Every person, this is sometimes hard for people to understand, but every person that has a blue eye is lacking the brown pigment. Therefore, every person that has a brown eye has a blue eye underneath.
All right.
Every person
So
that
every
has a brown,
eye,
you have blue eyes underneath,
Okay.
and I have blue eyes underneath my ojos café.
And when we're looking at the blue eye, we can see those fibers,
Those
the trabecula.
small, tiny fibers
So
of
the
connective tissue.
blue iris is easier to
It's
to
easier
read.
to read
It's easier to
than the
read.
brown eye.
Okay.
And
Then we have the other one, which is, I think, is the biliary, the hematogenic eye.
There
right?
we are, yes. The hematogenic eye has it's blue underneath that brown pigment. And the brown, like I said, is the oldest eye color in the human race. And every eye color has its own characteristics. And with the brown-eyed person, they need to be more careful with their liver, their arterial system, their gallbladder, and the blood system.
Very interesting.
Those tend to, yes, and it doesn't mean that every person with brown eyes is going to have these particular kinds of conditions. It's a category. So I want you to really understand that. Just because you have brown eyes, it doesn't mean that you're going to have liver problems, gallbladder problems, blood problems, artery problems. No, but that's a category. It's the same thing with the blue eyes that I didn't mention a moment ago, that the blue-eyed person tends to have more challenges with their kidneys and their respiratory system and their lymphatic system. They have a tendency to have arthritis more than the other eye colors. So it's a pretty interesting categorical kind of thing called constitutional iridology.
And we can look at aspects of the way the fibers are laid. We can check the color. We can check the pigments. We can check the shape,
Yes.
also, because there are variations within the shape. And we have another iris, which is the mixed iris,
Yes.
which we have the other one.
We have the other one. We need to look at the third color.
Uh-huh.
And the third color comes from the mix of having children from a brown-eyed parent and a blue-eyed parent.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives us the biliar or biliary or mixto color. So you can see that it's partly blue and it's partly orangey brown, and this is a true mix of parental genes of blue and brown eyes.
And I want to mention that besides looking at the iris, we also, which is the color area of the eye, in the center we have the pupil, but we also can look at situations or evaluate the sclera, which is the white part of the iris with the vessels.
With the blood
in it, right?
vessels, all mean something. And when we're born, those blood vessels are not present in the eyes of a baby. Those blood vessels emerge over a number of years due to the stress that we have put on ourselves mentally, emotionally, and physically. The kinds of stressors will give rise to these blood vessels that we're
Right.
looking at
Okay.
here.
So the different stresses of life will do these marks on the sclera, but also are gonna make other marks on the iris of the patient. Those concentric rings
Right.
also are part of the experience of the patient, right?
Yes. Now,
Of the person.
I'd also like to say that in looking at the biliary iris, to complete this for our audience, that the biliary iris has challenges. The person with the blue eye and the brown eye and the biliary eye, as I said, have all these different challenges potentially. The biliary iris person has challenges similar to the brown eye, its liver and gallbladder, but we add to it the pancreas, which controls digestion and blood sugar. That people with a biliary eye tend to have more pancreatic challenges in their life. So these categorical aspects here give us information right from the beginning. And we also have to mention that all of those conditions that we mentioned for all three colors all have corresponding thought and emotions that go with it.
Which is your baby.
That's my baby.
You mentioned in your classes that the connection of the physical reflexes on the iris and the relation to thought and emotions, that is what makes it special, the way you teach holistic iridology. Tell us about that, and I think we have a view of that and that we want to present to the audience.
Sure. You know, the aspect of looking at a whole person through their eyes, what we're looking at is the spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical. So we're looking at the predispositions, and we know this is not a theory. We know that in order to create true healing for you, it's a spiritual connection with God. It's not about religion, it's the spiritual connection with God. It is positive thoughts, not negative thoughts. It's loving emotions, not anger and hate emotions. And then that in turn affects the physical body. So if we are going to get well and to be healthy and to have buen salud, then we must look at all of these aspects, spiritual, mental, and emotional, because that affects the physical. And in the eyes, there are signs that give us information about our thoughts and our feelings as well, because we inherit that information from our parents. It's not just the shape of our nose, the color of our hair, how tall we are, how short we are. It's a combination of physical things, mental and emotional things. We also inherit from our parents.
Okay.
And that's science. That's not a theory.
No, genetics are, there are studies that are proving that you can change with your thoughts, the genetics, and vice versa.
You can change your DNA.
You can change that, exactly. And we have a slide that we want to present, Señor Director, the one with the different area, that one.
Oh yes, now this part here, like you said, this is my baby. What we're talking about here, this is the eye chart, and from the brain area, and starting at 1, you can see that it's survival, and then sexual expression and experiential, and then moving to the left, there's experiential, perception, sensory movement, consciousness and vitality, the 5 senses, self-esteem, verbal expression, the ability to communicate, and then creative intellect. And these are in the brain area.
Give us an example. Give us an example of a situation where you can detect or evaluate in a patient a tendency to or a problem related to that thought and emotional area.
Well, okay, I can say that, just to give you a quick example, that I was reading the eyes of a gentleman to introduce holistic iridology to him, and I saw a little brown pigment in what's called the survival area at the bottom of that wedge. And I asked him about his birth or the gestation in utero during pregnancy, and that I thought that he had a trauma or a life-threatening situation. And he completely explained to me that when they had finished with his mother in the 2nd trimester of pregnancy, that she got so toxic that they were going to abort the pregnancy and lift the baby
Wow.
13 weeks early. And that mark was in his eyes as a life-threatening situation.
All right, all right. So I think that that person was amazed by you telling him that by that dot in that specific area, you brought to notice that he had a birth trauma or
A gestational trauma as well, it could be that.
gestational
And
trauma.
he was an ophthalmologist.
Ophthalmology.
Yeah, an ophthalmologist. He
All
said,
right.
wow, you can see that in my eye? I look at eyes all day. I don't know what I'm looking at now. You see so much.
Wow.
Because the ophthalmologist studies the inside of the eye and mainly diseases, right? So as the iridologist, we're studying the external part of the eye for information.
All right. Very
Yeah.
interesting. And we have another slide right there. That
Yeah,
one.
this-
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, this is a beautiful slide, and it shows by taking that eye chart that I explained earlier, went through the different sections, how it lays out on the human brain. And you'll see on the far left, it says sinuses, frontal sinuses, and temple and forehead. And then it goes into creative intellect and verbal expression. That's the higher brain function.
Okay.
That's the higher brain function. If we go all the way to the right, in the green, the verde area, where it's supervivencia, you can see that that is survival, and that's the brain stem. That's the back end regional of the pons and the medulla of the brain, and that's survival. So this is how the array, how it actually lays out. And I would like to point out that at the very top is consciousness and vitality. And that, for those that understand the chakra system, that is the crown chakra.
Exactly. Exactly. In
The
center,
top of the brain, in the center,
at 12.
right at 12 o'clock.
Exactly. And we can see the correlation also with the pituitary, the pineal gland, and the hypothalamus.
Hypothalamus.
Right where it
Right
lies anatomically
Yes.
in the brain.
Yep.
So this is something, Dr. Pesek, this is something that for some people, doing the iris evaluation has changed their lives because of
It
the
has.
fact that
It will.
it has helped them become conscious of situations that weren't situation to be treated by drugs or
Exactly.
vitamins or whatever.
And some of these things we see in the brain are actually subconscious. They don't
Exactly.
even know they have that
and
issue.
once we help them,
The awakening.
they are awakening, they are become conscious of that situation, and then they can deal
They
with the
can begin to
situation.
heal it
Exactly.
and
exactly.
prevent disease.
Exactly. That's the most important thing.
To prevent disease.
Prevent and heal. Okay, now we have to go. Tenemos que ir a una pausa comercial, pero regresamos en breve con más de esto de iridología holística y Vive Sanamente.